Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's webinar, which goes by the name Real-Time Daily Trading Ideas. What are we going to be doing today? We will be speaking about trading ideas, strategies, and market screenings, and we will be answering your questions. Guys, my name is Alex Raftopoulos. You've probably heard me before. This is just a compulsory, introduction. Okay. So most of you will probably heard of the risk disclaimer before. We've spoken about it multiple times, but it is important, and you should be aware of it. Trading with financial instruments offered by Admiral Markets carries a high level of risk, which is not suitable for all investors. Please be aware of the fact that this is not trading advice. This is just personal opinion of our traders, and please be sure that you don't just follow it. Please be sure that you still think about your trading, and do not misinterpret that as trading advice. You can read the risk disclaimer on our website. This is the schedule for the week. Today it's Paul's turn. And before I finish off with the introduction, I would like to invite everyone interested in trading to try us out and benefit from the best index and forex offerings with spreads of just 0.8 pips. Please feel free to have a look around our website and explore our international activities. And do not hesitate to contact us should you have any questions. Well, enough of me for the moment. Now it's Paul's turn. Good morning, Paul. How are you doing, and what's your outlook of the markets?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Alexander. I hope you're all well. Here we are, Tuesday, the 12th of February, 2019. Great to be here to talk to you and give you some real market trading ideas for here using the Admiral Markets MetaTrader suite. We've got an interesting. We've got a few things to have a little bit of a look at today. I sort of said last week that very often the first couple of weeks of February can be a little quiet, and we'll talk about that. Meaning being that as we start in January, everybody comes back after the sort of holiday season. Everybody's excited. Everybody wants to know what the big themes are for the year. So we tend to get lots of movement and a little bit of volatility and pushes, and then after about a month of that, everybody starts to take breath and start to think, right, okay, let's take a little breather. Let's take some profits and look at where we're going to move for the remainder of the sort of calendar Q1 of the year, and we'll look at that as we go through some of the charts today and how that's worked out and what we think is setting up. I think the main thing for today's session will be about US dollar. We're having a bit of what some people might call a dollar holler. What do I mean by that? What am I looking at? Well, I'm just going to show you. Hopefully, you can all see my screen. I'm just going to show you. I've put it up occasionally in the past. Within FX markets, I'm always keen to know where is the strength and where is the weakness. I want to be buying strength and selling weakness in my particular style of trading. And so every weekend I spend a little bit of time just going through my own little matrix to work out the 8 major currencies, who's the strongest, who's the weakest. So hopefully you might be able to see this little Excel spreadsheet. Even though I have a plugin for MetaTrader that does it for me now, I actually still like to do it by hand, because I find actually I have to go through the charts and do it. It gives me a great connection. I start to do good analysis at the time, and it gives me all sorts of trading ideas. But if we look here, here's the US dollar since the start of the year, and actually it started the year sort of 3rd out of 8, and actually even got down to sort of 6th and 5th. But what we've seen in the last week or so, okay, is that we've had dollar strength. Okay, dollar's popped back to being number 1. Okay, where it was for, let's say, the latter 8, 9, 10 months of last year, we've actually had dollar pop back to being number 1. Japanese yen is number 2, which is interesting. We'll have a look at. And really at the bottom of the pile, we've got Aussie dollar at 7 and Euro dollar at 8, and the rest are sort of in the middling. Okay, in the middle, even like pound against dollar is kind of middling, but that's what I want to know. I want to have an idea of where's the strength, where's the weakness. And at the moment, under my matrix, okay, which might be different from others. My matrix says dollar is strong, okay, yen is strong, and euro and Aussie are weak. Okay, so then you have to look at, well, how are the charts doing? Are the charts actually sort of are they backing that up, or are they are we having a difference of opinion there? Okay, so here we go. Let's move across to the charts. This is the dollar index. Okay, it's a weekly chart. Those of you who are completely new to trading and joining us for the first time, my charts are relatively simple. Okay, green and red bullish candles, 20 blue simple, a red 50 simple, and a green 200 simple moving average. Fractals, and as you can see, I draw in some levels of support and resistance, and occasionally the odd pattern or idea that I see. And here we have on the weekly chart. I talked about how I thought that price might drift up to this blue box. Okay, we talked about that a few weeks back. Okay, for about the last month. And what do you know? Here we are. We can see over the last kind of week, 10 days, we've had a good deal of dollar strength. Why has that happened? Well, I think part of that is is a sort of outflow of the US China trade talks, okay, and of course Mr. Trump with his occasional tweets, okay, that tend to sort of have maneuvers on the markets. But there are more contributing factors to that. But what we have seen is a good deal of dollar strength over the last week or so. And now we're up into that box there, okay? And so this is where I start to get interested in the dollar. We've got dollar strength, but I'm going to be waiting to see, does dollar start to, over the next, what could over be the next few days and weeks, start to put in reversal patterns that would form the possible right shoulder of head and shoulders on the weekly of the dollar. In which case, well, then it wouldn't surprise me if we drifted back down to 95, and who knows, maybe even further south. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, looking at how the price action is. But definitely at the moment, we can see that there's dollar strength. The dollar is at its high point for the year, and that's going to be a recurring fact that we see. The dollar at highs and lows for the year so far. What we'll do is just keep an eye on that over the next couple of days and weeks. All right. So if I go down to the daily chart. We've had a really strong run. You can see there on the daily chart, we're into that area, 96.88, where we drew, weeks back, okay, and price is just having a little bit of a breather now. Is it gonna go sideways and roll over? It could actually race its way through back up to that kind of those highs of last year, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. We'll just keep an eye on it. It's in an inflection point, okay, an area where we want to sort of see what the price maneuvers are. If I go down to the 4-hourly chart, well, I mean, that just shows you itself. It's been just such a lovely trend, okay, from, reversing off 95, which you've heard me talk about as being a level for probably about the last year or so. And we rallied right up to that 96.88. And you can see that, that doesn't get any sweeter as a swing trend. And what interests me is, we see this big green bullish candle here, okay, and normally that's what a lot of people like to see those, okay, but after a really long nice trend, if I start to see them at the end of it, and my first thought is, well, is that a bit of exhaustion? Is that the last people to the party? Is that the kind of last little push before we have to take a breather? If I'm seeing big green candles like that, I actually want to see them down here like this at the start of a trend. When I get them at the end of a trend, it's that my first thought is a case of, well, is this a case of, we're having a little bit of exhaustion, okay? Just last people to the party, we might take a breathe, and that's what we've done so far. So let's just keep an eye on that. So we've seen that there's dollar strength there in an area of inflection. So then I want to have a look at, well, have a look at how is that playing out against the major currencies. Now, if you remember what we looked at, and looked at my matrix, dollar was strong, euro was bottom, weakness. So let's have a little look at the euro dollar chart. Here we go, and we can see that it's just been a downtrend, okay. And you've heard me talk about this for a while now, okay. We were just sat on that 113 level where also the weekly green 200 period moving average was, and I said I thought we were getting a little bit of a squeeze ready for another move. And actually what we have done on the euro dollar is a case of we've actually sort of broken beneath that 113 level. Now just a word of caution, okay, this is a weekly chart, so just to remember it's only Tuesday morning, okay. This candle there's still a lot of trading to go on, all right, this week before we see how that completes, okay. Don't be taking trades just because we see it as it is. It's a case of weekly candles, you only make a decision on it once we see the candle close on Friday evening. But if I go down to that daily chart, okay, we can see that we closed beneath 113, and we can see that it's acted as pretty strong support in the past, okay. The last time, even when we got down here, we were back up above it very quickly. And what I'd be actually looking to see is, as a trade idea, I want to see how does price drift back up to that 113 area, and what does it do there? Okay, what does it do? Does it actually give us a bearish reversal? In which case, I'd probably be looking to be short down towards those recent lows of around about 112.15. Okay, or alternatively, we might get back up above and close it. We can see that might happen. So that would give us an indication that we might just have had a little bit of a breather. Okay, just a little bit of a breather. But we can certainly see that this is what's been shown for the last week or so. We've had euro weakness, dollar strength. Okay, and I don't want to fight it. I just want to see we're at an inflection point, and I want to see how does the market react here, and I always like to wait and see and let the market play its hand. And once it does that, then I'll be in a position to sort of get on board and take my trade. If we have a quick look at dollar Swiss franc, okay, there's nothing really exciting for me here, other than, once again, dollar here, okay, on the weekly chart, it's up at this resistance level, which has been key over the last few years, and actually all we are, once again, dollar's at its high for the year against the Swiss franc, right? So this high for the year. Now, as I said, this is a weekly chart. There's still a lot of trading to go, but the fact that we see that it's hitting these highs and lows, okay, so far is giving us a little bit of an indication that we're at an inflection point. We're at an interesting point in what the dollar does. I know some of you are big traders of pound against dollar. If I go up to weekly chart here, okay, we had a bit of a sterling rally. We had a bit of a sterling rally because for that couple of weeks they thought there was going to be a deal done on Brexit. So of course that was strong for sterling. Then of course as we've gone back into a bit of a British song there, a bit of the hokey cokey going on. We've now sort of drifted back down. We're now ran down here about the weekly 200, weekly 20, my apologies. There we are back down beneath 130. That gives an indication. If we go down to the daily, we've had, once again, there's been an indication there of some dollar strength, okay, over the last couple of weeks. Dollar strength, sterling weakness. So I'd be expecting this to drift down to that 150, around about 128. And then we'll be interested to see on the daily chart, okay, because now prices between the 200, the 20, and the 50, is there going to be a squeeze happen? And will that get a move that pushes us back down towards those lows, okay? So, or will the 50, which has acted as a dynamic resistance and support there, will that act as support and move us way back up to 130? So we're as I said, we're in a little bit of an inflection point across the board on these major currencies at the moment, and we're just waiting to see how some trades set up for us. Dollar yen, okay, once again, here's the interesting point, but not surprisingly, okay, we have, after the big flash crash at the end of the year, start of the year, we're actually hitting highs, okay, highs for 2019. Now, admittedly, we've already had like 6-7 weeks of trading weeks, okay, but it's once again, it's indicative. We've seen highs, we've seen highs against the dollar Swiss franc, we've seen lows against the euro dollar, okay. There's, as I said, there has been a real indication of dollar strength there, okay. And if I go down to the daily chart. Interestingly, for the daily chart here, we had 110 here. 110 was acting as a pretty strong resistance. It might even go down, if we go down to the 4-hourly chart, might show us a little bit better what we're watching. Yep, you can see here, we had 110 acting as a real quite significant resistance. What we had of interest, okay, at sort of end of last week is that, all of these lows were getting higher, okay. There was clearly buying pressure, and then early this year, it's popped and gone, all right. Now, what I'd be looking to do is, want to see, could price rally back, drift back down to around about that 110.20 area, okay, back towards where, last week's high would be, where the 4-hour 20-period moving average would be. Then I'd be looking to trade that as a possible pullback there. Look, if there is if there's bullish price there, and then that's what I'd be taking a sort of a view on. So it's a case of just waiting that to set up for that as the sort of rest of the week plays out. If we can look at dollar CAD and stuff, but dollar CAD and Aussie dollar, okay, we looked at look at Aussie dollar. The story's pretty much the same, okay. Here the dollar is go to the weekly chart. All right, here we go. Is that the sort of the dollar there is starting to Aussie dollar's hitting its sort of the lows of the year. And remember what we were saying, that actually Aussie was kind of pretty much along with euro was the weakest against the dollar. So you're looking really around about that 70-40, 70-50 level. Okay, we're going to be looking at seeing how does price react when it gets down to there, right? Last time was when we actually had the bit of the flash crash, which was good for Aussie in the sense that we had a bounce off it. but we've drifted back down there into that area. And so as I said, we're at a bit of we're coming towards an area of inflection. What are we going to do? What are we going to actually see in terms of the dollar? Are we going to get continued dollar strength, or are we going to get a sort of a reversal and start to build that head and shoulders pattern that we saw on the dollar index weekly chart? So as that's we've just had a bit of a shot at the dollar, and hopefully you can see that that I say it every week. The dollar is king. You need to have an understanding of what the dollar's doing, all right? And we can see there that we've had that dollar strength, and it is just when dollar is strong like that, it is just it's trouncing all of those major other currencies. So you don't particularly want to fight that. What we're doing is waiting to see how it works at an inflection point, and then that will give us an opportunity to sort of build a position there. So I think we've got a couple of questions about looking at some of the indexes, look at some other currencies, which I'm happy to do. If I have a little look here, as we're here, one of the Admiral Markets top trading instruments is DAX here. Okay, so here we are on the weekly chart. I'm kind of curious about DAX here. Here on the weekly chart, we had a bit of a rally here. You can see, okay, end of last year to start this year. If you look at last week's weekly candle, okay, that is, that's a bearish engulfing candle. That's a bearish key reversal candle. Some people might even call it a pin bar, even though the wick could do with it being a little bit longer, okay. But it's a significant candle, okay, on a weekly basis. That is, there's nothing terribly bullish about that, okay. That would have me a little bit worried. And I think this week, later on this week, we've got on Thursday. I think we've got the sort of German GDP figures. We've got also the Eurozone GDP figures, okay, and I think that will be of interest, and I think the market will be waiting to see what happens there, okay, and whether we get any kind of let's say relief, because you can see that the DAX has been hit pretty hard over the last few months. Will there be numbers there that will provide a little bit of relief, or will it actually just put more fuel to the fire in terms of acting as to sort of drive DAX down towards those recent lows back around about the 10,500, 10,400 area? If I go down to the daily chart, okay, we can see, the daily chart here, looking at that, okay, for me, there's nothing really there tradable at the moment, okay. I'm looking at it, I see that is just, it's put in that sort of bearish engulfing candle, but I'll be looking just to see, how does it do when it gets back up into this sort of 11,180 area, looking to see, okay, does it have the strength to get above the daily 20 and hold above it, which would be maybe a little bit bullish, or will we get a bit of a push down? Are we going to get weight, hang around here till Thursday, and if the numbers are poor, then actually that would push the sort of the DAX down, as I said, back down towards those levels. So I think, DAX is a case of just watching that until sort of till later this week. But look at it on the 4-hour chart. There we go. We're squeezed between the 4-hour 50 and 200, okay, and the 20s in between. As I said, I think this is a bit of a squeeze that's going on, which will carry on for probably the next 48 hours until we get that data on Thursday. And I think then that is what will give us a bit of an indication of where we could go going forward. And if I have a look at, as always, one of the perennial favorites, euro against sterling. It's you've heard me talk about this all the time. Okay, 87.50 has been the level. Every time we got down to it, and I thought we were going to have a bit of an extended move down, we didn't. We got back up and held above it, and we are still holding above it there. Okay, we're still holding above it there. If you look at the price action, there's nothing terribly attractive about that price action here now. Certainly for me. Once again, I think there's just this is just an indication of what are we going to get in those German and Euro numbers later this week, but also what kind of shenanigans are we going to get in the next 24 hours on the UK and the Brexit? Okay, it's literally a case of it swinging left, right, and centre, and invariably that has an impact upon euro and euro sterling. So I just see that I think we'll hold around about the 87.50 area, 87.50 to 88 area. I think we'll hold about that for at least for the next few days. Right, until we get the next bit of political information out of the UK that has an impact on moving that market. So let's have a look at Dow Jones. I know some of you are traders at the Dow. Here we go. This is let me just go up to the weekly chart. Okay, so weekly chart. Yep, we had the rally. Okay, Mr. Trump last week has been talking about how it was the best January on record for the Dow and the American markets, which as I said last week, it's all about context. Okay, yes, that was a good month, but then put it in context of how it's moved from September to December. Well, then you can see the relevance of it in a different move. But what I talked about is that the thing about the Dow is leading the other major indices, the major American indices like the Nasdaq, the S&P, and the Russell. The Dow is above the 50, the weekly 50, and it's held. Okay, that's a little bit of a rejection candle, but it's held so far. And if I look at the daily chart, we're above the 200 there. Okay, and we're above the 20 and the 50. Price has got above, price came back in, and it actually bounced off the daily 200 so far. Okay, it's we wait and see. That's a little bit of a flag pattern really there. If you're on the sort of kind of daily chart, you'd be looking at that as a little bit of a flag pattern there, which is a continuation pattern, which is one of the patterns we covered on the Mastering the Four M's of Trading webinar series, and we just move along on that. And so we're looking at that on the 4-hour chart. 4-hour chart's a little bit scruffy there, okay, but we can still see that we are actually sort of having higher lows there. And what I'll be looking at is, could we break at that sort of 25,250 level, right? Have a bullish break above that, then I'll be looking at a push towards at least those recent highs of 25, 438, 440. That's where I'll be looking at a move on that. Just to finish off, I know someone asked about SP 500. Well, the thing is, the SP 500 is not drastically different from the Dow. You can see, we just talked about how on the Dow, the weekly, the Dow is above, okay, it's 50-period moving average, whereas the S&P and the Nasdaq and the Russell, they are not, okay, they are running into it, okay, and that's where it's acting as, whereas the 200 acted as resistance, which became support. At the moment, the S&P is still acting as as resistance. The daily 200 is still there, just in front of us, and so I'd be expecting price to sort of drift its way up there. Okay, sort of drift its way up there to around about 2740 handle. Then I'd want to see how does it react to the 200-period moving average. Will it slice through it and then hope it becomes support? In which case we could see further rallies. Or will it actually reverse off that? And I think a lot of this, whilst there's technically there, a lot of that is going to be driven about the let's call them the leaks that come out of the US-China trade talks. So there you go, Alexander. We've had a bit of a quick fly through there. As I said, we were a little bit of an inflection point here in these markets. Okay, we're a little bit of a decision point. So it's a case of just being aware of what's going on, having your powder dry, and getting ready to jump on the new trends when they start to re-exert themselves.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for your comprehensive analysis, Paul. Thanks to the audience for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's webinar. If you did enjoy it and would like to review it, you can do so anytime. Just give us an hour or so to upload it onto YouTube. I wish everyone a good day ahead. Goodbye.